So now let's go ahead and take a look at the next set of controls. So the first thing that we're going to look at is the slider. And this is a pretty basic control. There's not a lot here. The interesting things to notice about this control is that you can set a minimum and a maximum value. So you can basically use this to control some range of numbers, perhaps for a setting or some configuration that you would have a user be able to select. You can of course set the default for that, and then you can actually use an image for the minimum and the maximum on here. Everything else I think is pretty obvious here. Not too much new here from any slider control that you've probably already seen or used. The switch control is also another very basic control, kind of something I would say fairly unique to iOS, but actually pretty useful as a metaphor for a lot of the things that you might do in an iOS application. So I actually use this control quite a bit for toggling things on and off. It's a real simple control for a user to use. I definitely would encourage the use of this control because it does simplify your application if you can define things in an on or off switch. You can set the initial state here, and really that's really the only unique thing about that control. Now this one's a little bit more interesting, this activity indicator control. You can change the style, a large white or a white or a gray. You can also provide this behavior to have it hide when it's stopped, which is pretty useful so that the activity indicator doesn't even show up unless it's actually started up, and you can set whether or not it's animating already. To use this control, all you do is basically call a start method on it or a stop method, but it's kind of useful. This is one of those controls that not too many people are aware of, and so they don't use it, but it's useful in a lot of different situations when you're doing some kind of processing in the background and just to indicate to the user that something's going on. The last one here that we're going to cover in this segment is the progress view, and this is another one of those fairly standard controls. I think like a progress bar. You can set to default or to the bar view, and it's a 0 to 100. The default is at 50, and that's really all there is to it. You can set what the scale is. You can basically programmatically set what it's at, what its value is in the progress. And it's another one of those useful controls that you can use if you have some kind of long-running process and you have some good way to update what the status is. This is a good control to use.